What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Jump Ball with Josh. I'm your host, Joshua Massey, and I'm glad you could be here with me today as we talk more NBA. 2026 is a week in, and the NBA is still going strong, and we're here to talk about it today. We're going to talk about Atlanta Hawks and Trae Young saga, and later on we'll talk about the Golden State Warriors, the slump they've been in, and what they can do. But first, let's shoot around the league and a few quick topics that I've noticed that I wanted to talk about. First off, let's talk about Deni Avdija and Tyrese Maxey being named Conference Players of the Week. Deni had 26 points, 8 rebounds and 9 assists, leading the team to a 3-1 week. And I've talked about him before and he's just been killing it. He's been doing everything right, getting into the paint, drawing numbers, assisting, he's getting to the free throw line, he's shooting it beyond the arc. He's just got a different kind of confidence. And what we've seen from him over the last week is he's just taken it to the next level. Got the confidence to score, but to facilitate. The Trailblazers are definitely leaning into him now, while they've got some guys like Holiday, and obviously Dame hasn't played this year. Deni and Shaden have just created a good little bond there, and they're definitely getting momentum. I look forward to seeing what they can do. You know, they might be a play-in team. They could cause some disruptions that should they get Drew Holiday back. You know, he can ruffle some feathers on the defensive end. And if Deni's scoring like he's scoring now, they might be a team that can cause a little bit of trouble for, you know, the 1 or 2 seed if they can scrape in through the play-in. Tyrese Maxey on the Eastern Conference side, he had 34.7 points. 8.5 assists on 61% field from the field. Led the team to a 3-0 week as well. And Tyrese, he's taken the next step this year. And there was a point there through the season, and I don't know if I'm still thinking it now or where I am with it, but is Tyrese Maxey taking over the Philadelphia 76ers as the franchise guy? Like, is this his team now? Some people it might be more obvious yes, some people it might be clear obvious no. To me, the shift feels like everyone's leaning a bit more into Tyrese, and Tyrese has got the confidence to lead this team right now. And I think if you said that to Joel Embiid, he would be happy right now. You know, the spotlight's not on him. He can kind of get back to being fit and playing at his best basketball. The team just gels so well around Maxey and everything that he does. He's out there, he's pushing the pace, he's getting up the floor, he's so quick. And yeah, I can see a world where maybe the 76ers don't trade Joel Embiid, but they just kind of say, hey, look, Maxey's our guy. He's been our guy this year and he's going to continue to be our guy. So that's, encouraging signs if you're a Philly fan. I like watching Tyrese. He's one of my favourite players to watch in the league. So congratulations to those two guys. Moving on to some results around the league, and a big one first was the Detroit Pistons beating the New York Knicks 121-90. Cade had 29 points, 11 of 17 from the field, 13 assists, 2 blocks and a steal. The Pistons have now moved clear first seed in the East. They're 27-9, and they just beat up the Knicks physically. You know, they were in their face. You saw Cat was just didn't want to get into that paint against Beef Stew. He wanted to stay out there and shoot threes. He wasn't being his aggressive self. I spoke last time that this is something that the Knicks are going to need for Cat to be for them to make a run and to go deep, is for Cat to stay aggressive and be tough. And we just haven't seen it. We didn't see it there yesterday against the Pistons. So yeah, they got beat up. Shout outs to Cade. He had an MVP-like performance. Really took it to Jalen Brunson. 2 of the best guards in the East, I would have to say. They just run their team perfectly, and Cade just got the upper hand on this one. And I definitely can see a world where we have a Knicks-Pistons conference final, and I would look forward to that. You know, one team that's gritty and gets in your face against a team like the Knicks that, when they're rolling, they'll keep you down, but when you get in their face, will they respond to that adversity? So yeah, shout outs to the Pistons. Definitely didn't have them being in this spot at this stage in the season. Moving on to another Eastern Conference team that has surprised everyone, and Jaylen Brown had 50 points on 18 of 26 from the field, shot 60% from 3, 6 of 10 threes, and led the Celtics to a 146-115 win over the Los Angeles Clippers, who were rolling before this, might I add. Celtics have won 4 in a row and sit second in the East at 22-12. And shout outs to this team. They just everything's clicking when you look at them, and then I was looking at that matchup and thinking, Kawhi's going to be too much defensively for Jaylen Brown. They haven't really got anything else. Derek White's been flashy, just he'll have a good night and then he won't. But yeah, Jaylen Brown got it done, and I read a post somewhere saying that Jaylen Brown wanted the defensive matchup on Kawhi as well, and he took that matchup and did well with it. So he's having an MVP like season as well, and there's a world where if he keeps falling like this, you've got to talk about him for potential MVP. And it's not a fluke, Jaylen Brown's always had this confidence in himself to hit his shot and carry his team and get into the paint. And we're seeing that JB, and yeah, shout outs to Joe Mazzulla for unlocking this version of Jaylen Brown and putting the faith in him to go to this next level. It's been really good to see as a NBA fan. Devin Booker hit a big 3 over Alex Caruso for the Phoenix Suns to win 108-105. And yeah, watching this game and just watching D-Book, and you saw him dribble the ball up, and it ended up being almost a double team. He had to shoot it over 2 guys, Dorton and Caruso, and yeah, it was a good shot. D-Book's had an underrated season. I made a post about him earlier in the week, just pumping him up because what he's doing is amazing. He's carrying that team with really a bunch of role players and Dylan Brooks. And so, yeah, good on you, Devin Booker. Huge effort. OKC are 1-2 in 2026, which is not what many people would have had on their bingo card, I must admit, not myself included. So, yeah, good on him. He's, good on them, though, the Suns. The Thunder need to figure it out. They've had a lot of guys playing, they've had off nights, and guys like Dort and J-Dub has had a tough stretch. They'll figure it out, and it's the right time of the season for them to be going through this slump. We're almost halfway through the season, so yeah, a good time for them to hit the slump because they can reset and try some new things and really try and run towards the back end of the season. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was Cam Spencer. Dude's making $2.5 million, just dropped 21 points, 8 rebounds and 8 assists to beat the Spurs on a step back jump shot from the mid-range. They won 106-104. This was with Wemby back. He's averaging 12 points on 47% shooting from 3. He's had a 27-point game and 2 double-doubles with 5 starts. And he's just, we've got to start talking about him for a guy that, maybe a long shot for 6-man or most improved, because what he's done here and just, we haven't seen, we're seeing it a lot around the NBA with like guys like Ryan Rollins, Colin Gillespie. They're stepping up, but they had no rights to beat that Spurs team. The Spurs team's been rolling. They got Wemby back, admittedly off the bench, but so good on him for hitting that shot, and he's got the confidence and he's still rolling. The Grizzlies have got a good find there, and yeah, that was a surprising win, and they're doing some good things there. You just don't know where they're going to go, but they might have their guy. If they decide to pivot away from Ja Morant, then Cam Spencer is showing signs that he's the next guy up, and good on him. After the break, we will talk about Trae Young and Atlanta and all the stuff going on over there. Welcome back. It's time to talk about Atlanta and Trae Young. Shams recently reported that Trae Young and his representatives are talking with Atlanta's front office about organising a deal for Trae to move on. Trae has missed a bit of time this season. He's only played 10 games, averaging 19 points and 9 assists. The team are 2-8 when Trae plays, and giving up 126 points on the defensive end, which has always been a big criticism of Trae. Defensively, you're not going to get 100% out of Trae defensively, and he just looks like he checks out on the defensive end. Obviously, his size is an issue. He's not going to be able to be in the game in the clutch time in the fourth when you need him the most. And I think with the emergence of Jalen Johnson, they've chosen now is the right time to pivot. If you had said, 2 years ago that this was the way that Atlanta were going to go, I would have called you crazy. Trae just feels like he just embodies what it is to be a Hawk. He's out there always gritting and grinding with them. He's putting up the flashy shots and facilitating, and the city loves him. So this could be a hard split. I'm looking forward to wherever Trae could end up. I'm rooting for him. I hope he bounces back. He's another guy that I really like to watch, and he's people that you either love him or you hate him. I know Knicks fans definitely see the worst side of Trae, and probably happy that he's going through all this, because he's given them some grief over the years, rolling the dice, telling everyone to go home, and it's cold in here, and so he's a 4-time All-Star, an All-NBA third team. He's averaged 25 points and 10 assists over his career, so he can definitely get the job done. But is he a team's first option? Maybe not anymore. Maybe, but he's getting paid as a first option, so teams are definitely going to take that into consideration when Atlanta start fielding offers or fishing for offers. There was a report that came out that said the Knicks, the Kings, the Nets, the Blazers, and the Rockets have all been ruled out of potential deals for Trae. So I had a look around on Trade Machine and a few other little bits and pieces. Had Stathead up, shout out to them. Just trying to find some places for Trae, and the teams that need a point guard probably can't afford him, can't facilitate a deal. And the one team that he's been linked with was the Wizards, and I think right now this feels like the most appealing trade was a CJ McCollum, Malachi Branham, Anthony Gill for Trae Young, and maybe a second round pick or multiple second round picks. And Atlanta do this for a number of reasons. They get off the Trae Young contracts, they get a few expirings, and then they can use CJ to spread the floor this year around Jalen Johnson. And I don't know if they still see themselves as a potential playing team and can do something from there. They get healthy, they have Kristaps playing, Jalen Johnson's being the cornerstone, you've got CJ, Dyson Daniels, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, all of those guys kind of gelling together, double O. Then maybe they think that they can make a run, and if not, they go to the off season. A few expiring contracts off the books. You've got Trae Young's $45 million off the books. He's got a multiple year deal there, so he's got a player option. So no doubt if he stayed in Atlanta, he's taking that, and he's going into next season. So we can definitely see something of this caliber deals being done by Atlanta, moving on for some expiring contracts, I think. The Hawks are 17-21. They're 10th in the East, and they're middle of the pack offensively and defensively wise. They're second in pace, so they're playing quick, and I think CJ McCollum just can help them with that pace. Get up the floor, get into the corner, and be a spot up shooter, around Jalen Johnson and guys pushing the pace. One of the guys I wanted to emphasise on though for Atlanta was Dyson Daniels. Dude just got a 4-year, $100 million extension. He's on the last year of his rookie deal. He's shooting 11% from three, and it's something that needs to improve, obviously. The NBA now is almost extinct of defensive-only guards or wings. You've got to have something else to your game. You've got to have a bit of a, whether it's an inside game or it's facilitating or a three-point shot, and that's just escaped Dyson Daniels this year. He just can't get confidence to hit a shot. He's passing up open threes, but he's facilitating. He's averaging 6 assists, so that's a bright side, but Hawks are really going to need him to start hitting some shots or driving into that paint and laying up efficiently, but it's something that he's probably going to get more looks of. People are going to gap up on him, especially with Jalen Johnson driving. If they get someone like CJ, they're going to heavy on those sides. So yeah, he definitely needs to start hitting some threes. Kristaps has missed 22 games. He's averaging 17.5 points when he does play, but they're going to need him to get healthy if they want to do something too. That's been a big emphasis for Kristaps throughout his career, is his injuries, and yeah, just need him to get healthy. They kind of went all in around him, thinking that Trae was going to be, they could fix some stuff up there, and it just hasn't worked out. But Jalen Johnson, I've spoken about him many a times. He's just been doing wonderful things. 24 points, 10.5 rebounds, 8.5 assists, 1.5 steals. So that's your guy. Once you get rid of Trae, that's your guy. Build around him. Let him develop. Hopefully he stays healthy. He's a Swiss Army knife, as some say. He can do everything, and let him just grow there. You got Ricochet there that's kind of had a down year, but just let them do their thing. See where you end up at the end of the season. This free agency isn't great, so let these contracts expire. Maybe you can trade a Ricochet in the off season for another star. If Davis is still available at the end of the season, you trade Ricochet and another contract. You've got money on the books that you can take on someone like Davis. So yeah, I really think a trade around McCollum could see them move a bit up the standings and have a run at the end of the year. That's where I think they should go. I think they've got that Pelicans pick that could potentially be great. If the balls fall them in the lottery and they get that pick, top 3 pick, then Atlanta, we could be talking about a different Atlanta come next year, and come next season they could be definitely on the forefront of everybody's mind. That's where I see them at, and just shout out to Trae Young. Hopefully he gets to a good spot where he's happy, where we can all root for him. I'll always root for Trae Young. So yeah, after the break we will talk about the Golden State Warriors and the strife that they've been going through. The Golden State Warriors, they're in the last years of Steph and Curry, and I've been saying it to myself, and I've been saying it to people around me. They can't waste these last special years of Curry. I don't see there ever being a world where Steph gets traded, and I know Steph wouldn't want that. I know the front office wouldn't want that, and I know Warriors fans wouldn't want that, and it just wouldn't feel right seeing Steph in another shirt. But they've got an old Jimmy Butler who's doing his best, but you're paying big money for him this season, next season, the season after, and you've not really got much else around them. Draymond is someone I want to really get onto, and he's been getting ejected. He's got ejected twice in the last 5 games. And if I'm Steve Kerr, if I'm Steph Curry, I'm letting Draymond be Draymond and doing what he does. He likes to carry on and get into people's faces, but don't cost us games by being over emotional and over passionate, and that's where I could see it ending up if they can get into the postseason. As Draymond he's not thinking about the long term picture, and he carries on to the refs, and he's getting in your face, and like I said, just an emotional character. And Draymond is a great player. He's a leader of this team, and you just don't like to see it that they need him out on the court. They're better with him. He can facilitate defensively. He's going to hold this team together. He's going to anchor them. He's going to set some screens. He's going to set some good screens, and even he'll get into the paint and get some points every now and again, and he'll hit a 3. But yeah, I just can't cop it when one of your leaders is just getting ejected or fouling out or just getting tech fouled, and I know that's who Draymond is, but that was fine when they were winning and when they were a great team. Now they need him out there. They need him to do what he does best, and that's lock down players. The whole Kuminga situation, he's one of their highest paid and he's not getting any game time. And I think he's trade eligible in the next week or 2 after getting the extension the off-season before. This off-season just gone. And I really hope that they can get a deal done. I was looking at some kind of deal with Charlotte for Colin Sexton, maybe some bench scoring. Maybe he ends up in Chicago and they get Vooch. Something like that, but he definitely it's time to move on. It's time for Kuminga to get a fresh start, and it's time for the Warriors to separate themselves from this whole situation. It's just been a mess, really. He started off really well, and then they just kind of benched him, and he was kind of used as the scapegoat for why they were losing. They sit 19 and 17. They're a play-in team, but with Steph Curry, you really should be aiming for higher, top 4, at least a guaranteed playoff spot. They really lack size, rebounding, inside scoring, and just hopefully they can get a few pieces to just help Steph and help Jimmy and really put themselves in a position to go into the postseason as a team that you might say, hey, look, that's a team we don't want to face. You get a playoff Steph and a playoff Jimmy, they can do wicked things. We've seen it before with Jimmy, we've seen it before with Steph. They're players that when the crunch time comes, they will go to that mode that not a lot of people can go to, and they'll flip the switch and they'll just kind of get it done. So hopefully they can sort some stuff out there, a few trades. I'm thinking if a deal doesn't get done for Trae in the next week or 2, that the first deal we will see will be a Kuminga trade somewhere. It has to happen the moment, not long after he's trade eligible. They're just burning that money. So I can see that getting done pretty swiftly. But yeah, hopefully the Warriors can break out of this. We deserve to see Steph in the playoffs. We deserve to see Steph at his best. Same with Jimmy. And there's a lot of young guys on this team that could really use a little less pressure. They've definitely succumbed to a lot of the criticism and the noise around Golden State. So yeah, just Draymond, hone it in a bit, be on the floor for your team when they need you the most. Be emotional, but don't be over emotional. Don't be in your face, and just really carry that team like you have been with Steph for the last decade or more. And hopefully we see a really good, threatening Golden State team in the off season. Moving on to the last little bit, I posted on TikTok and YouTube today, just talking about any questions for me, and Bob is for real. Put in there on TikTok, talking about a potential Trae Young deal to Milwaukee. And while I would love to see it done, I think a Trae and Giannis combo could be really, really, really lethal. There's just probably not a world where Milwaukee has anything that Atlanta wants. Contractually, I mean, they're not going to want Miles Turner. They're not going to want Kyle Kuzma. So this probably isn't a deal that gets done unless we get a third-party facilitator there where, some cap goes that way to Atlanta and all of that stuff. But yeah, definitely a combo that I would love to see, Trae and Giannis, but there's not a way it gets done without a third team, I see, or Atlanta taking a flyer on potentially Miles Turner. But yeah, that's been today's show. I hope you have enjoyed it. And if you have, please make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on any further content. Leave some comments letting me know your thoughts or any opinions you've had or anything else you want covered in future podcasts. We're here Thursdays and Sundays, and we're just getting started. If you've been here all episode, I've really appreciated you, and I'll see you in the next one.